Today's show is sponsored by CloudZero. For software-driven companies focused on growing margins, CloudZero is the only cloud cost intelligence platform that puts engineering in control by connecting technical decisions to business results. By analyzing cloud services like AWS and Snowflake, CloudZero provides real-time cost insights that help you maximize margins. Engineering teams can answer critical questions like, who are my most expensive customers? How much does this specific feature cost our business? What's the cost impact of re-architecting this application? With cost anomaly alerts via Slack, product-specific data views, and granular engineering context that makes it easy to investigate any cost, CloudZero is your complete cloud cost intelligence platform, connecting the dots between high-level trends and individual line items. Join companies like Drift, Rapid7, and SeatGeek by visiting cloudzero.com/cloudcast to get started today. That's cloudzero.com/cloudcast.
Cloudcast Media presents from the massive studios in Raleigh, North Carolina. This is the Cloudcast with Aaron Delp and Brian Gracely, bringing you the best of cloud computing from around the world.
Good morning, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome back to the Cloudcast. We are coming to you live from the massive Cloudcast studios here in Raleigh, North Carolina. Hope everybody is doing well. 2022 is here. We are kicking off a lot of new shows here in January 2022. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody got through the holidays and got to spend some time with their family. And as Aaron and I mentioned in the wrap-up shows, hope everybody is got some time to relax, to spend some time with family, to enjoy just time away from things. So we took about a week or so off. We're getting back now to the Sunday Perspective show and excited to be kicking these off for the year. The thing I really want to talk about today is not so much about technology, not anything from a historical retrospective, but one of the things that happens when we talk about kind of transitions in our industry, especially when we talk about how people use technology for the transitions, we always sort of say it's about three things. It's about the technology, it's about the process changes that typically have to happen, and it's about people. And I think of those three things, the one that we probably don't spend enough time on is people. And I kind of want to do a little bit of Sunday Perspective from a people perspective, just partially because it got me thinking a lot over the last couple of weeks. We tend to reset at the new year. We tend to, as human beings, we tend to reset because the calendar's flipped over. You hear people making predictions and New Year's resolutions and all sorts of things. But to a certain extent, when the calendar flips over, we do tend to kind of stop and pause, reflect on where we are, no matter kind of where we are in our career, in our lives, and so forth. And so I wanted to do a little bit of reflection, but kind of put some things in some context in that where people fit into these transitions that we talk about all the time, the technologies that we talk about all the time. And I want to kind of get to that right after the break.
Today's show is sponsored by JumpCloud, introducing the JumpCloud Directory Platform, the directory reimagined for the modern world. JumpCloud changes the way IT administrators manage their organizations by providing a comprehensive and flexible cloud directory platform. From one pane of glass, manage user identities and resource access, secure Mac, Windows, and Linux devices, and get a full view of your environment. Try JumpCloud for free today at jumpcloud.com and help your organization move to a modern, secure hybrid work model.
And we're back. And as I mentioned at the top of the show, we're going to talk a little bit about the people side of transitions that happen, whether it's you're implementing new technology in those transitions or just it's the beginning of a new year and people are going through different transitions within where they are in life, where they are in their jobs and their goals and so forth. And a couple of things got me thinking about this. Usually the Sunday Perspective show, something sort of triggers me to kind of want to, talk about the topic. And a couple of things sort of triggered me to want to think about this. The first one was, as everybody does, the year sort of started over. And I mentioned, I think it was a few shows ago, the weird thing about being on the business side of things as opposed to, having done things like in the sports world where you have defined seasons and so forth. Sometimes you'll have this with hobbies. You'll have, an event that happens. But, in the business world, things just kind of tend to plow along. But we do have this sort of artificial thing that happens with the calendar where at the beginning of the year, especially, sometimes it happens at the beginning of a quarter, but especially at the beginning of a year, we tend to sort of reflect and we sort of start over, if you will. We set new goals, we set new metrics that we have to achieve, we set out new plans for how to go about doing that. And so from a personal goal perspective, it gets you thinking, where am I in my career? Where am I in my specific job? What do I like about what I'm doing? What skills do I have? What skills do I wish I had? And you kind of go through this personal evaluation, if you will, as to, where you are, where you want to be. And the reason I bring this up is if you are leading a team, if you're an individual contributor, you may or may not have conversations with your teammates about where they are, where they're going. Oftentimes it's a good conversation to have. Where are they? What are they thinking about doing? Are there things that you can do to help them? If you are a more senior person, maybe it's time to go try and mentor some junior people in your organization, or just people that maybe you've met online or in communities who, you have reached out to you and said, hey, can you help me? And you have some experience that's interesting to me. You have maybe some people that are interesting to me. And so we sort of take that into consideration. The other thing that kind of got me thinking was I was watching this documentary, this movie, I guess, if you will. It's a 3-part series on Disney. It's about the Beatles. And for those of you that are a little bit older, you may not even remember anything about the Beatles. For those of you that are probably 35 and above, you probably know the Beatles from a music perspective. And what was interesting was to watch this documentary, which was really kind of one of the first times that we got to see behind the scenes of probably the most famous band in the world, the biggest, most popular band in the world, and a group that had written, recorded, published, performed literally hundreds of songs. And so the amount of teamwork that has to go on, the collaboration, the arrangement that goes on between these things was something that was amazing, obviously, to the world, but we've never really seen behind the scenes. And this Get Back movie, which is on Disney Plus, some of you may or may not have that. Just an amazing amount of footage that had been uncovered after 50 something years. And it was really interesting to sort of watch these teams this one team, the Beatles, if you will, and how they came together. And they were at a little bit later stage in their career, but it was really interesting to watch the dynamics of teams who the individuals in the past who had worked together so incredibly well were now at different stages of their lives, different stages of their careers, just different stages of how they felt appreciated as part of the team. And so, it got me thinking about, it's if you are a people manager, for example, you're a team manager, or even if you're a team leader, this is going to be probably a time when it's probably worth talking to people, right? Over communicating with people, but talking to individuals about where they are goal wise. And this is something that maybe you do every day as a manager, but you may not necessarily think to do about the people who you're dependent upon. They're dependent upon you. Maybe the work that you do is collaborative in some way. And the reason I bring this up in the Beatles documentary really sort of kind of reminded me of this is that oftentimes, while a team may be doing very, very well, the organization may be doing well, or a project may be doing well, there's going to be times when people kind of reset their own goals, and it's important to make sure that you understand if people are kind of resetting where they are. Do they feel appreciated? Did the things that worked in the past, are those still going to work in the future? Because in the case of this Beatles documentary, one of the members of the band who went on to sort of fame after the band, George Harrison, started behaving differently. It sort of confused some of the band. But ultimately what he was saying was, I've grown as a musician. I've grown as a human being. I have different interests than I did when we first started this band 5, 6, 8 years ago. And I'd like to take a different role. And the way that they kind of went through the communication of that was really, really interesting. And I felt like it was something that I suspect a lot of people probably need to go through that process this time of year, and probably maybe several times a year, but especially early times of the year, to remember, to sort of align and assess, are the people that you're working with, do they feel appreciated? Do they feel challenged? And are you kind of putting your expectations on them when maybe they aren't, those things don't motivate them anymore, right? So a couple of things that I sort of would suggest or recommend, and this is from having been both somebody who has, been technically curious, but also at times bored in jobs, not necessarily the current job, but in previous jobs, have been frustrated with situations, have been trying to achieve some new goals, but also have been a team leader and watched the dynamics of the team change and so forth. So a couple of things I'd recommend in this space, especially early in the year. If you're a team leader, remember to over-communicate. And, we talk about this a lot, especially if you manage teams or you work amongst managers or leaders, whatever they call themselves in your organization. Especially, for what's gone on in the last 2.5 years, we're into the third year of this COVID thing. Hallways are gone, essentially, right? We don't necessarily work together in hallways. Hallways, whether those are hallway the track at events or just hallway meetings that you would have had normally, those are essentially gone, right? The things where you kind of got a vibe for people. You picked up their body language. You picked up, how they're interacting with other people, right? Did new communication patterns, are they happening? We're not seeing that as much, right? Things like Slack threads and email threads are so frequent and overwhelming, right? Remember, you've got to spend some time one-on-one communication. Spend some time with your team, making sure that you understand with your team. Do they understand the goals? What are what are they really interested in? Do they have new ideas, right? So, this is a great time of year to really go back and kind of reevaluate with them. Where is everybody? Where's everybody's head? Is it aligned to the team's goals? Do they want to try and take on some new things? Are there some areas that are no longer interesting to them? And that may or may not be a choice that they get to, kind of push off, but maybe something that you have to reevaluate. Okay, where do I need assistance? The second thing is, like I said, spend some time individually with people, whether these are your colleagues, whether these are the people that work with you, for you, people you mentor, people that mentor you. Kind of take stock of where they are. Because again, oftentimes we get into these ruts where we just assume that, especially at work, people like doing what they're doing. Maybe the systems that you have in place, you just assume, they seem to work fine. As far as I know, nobody's outwardly complaining, but take stock, right? This is a great time to really spend some time with people, understand what are their goals, what, maybe something's changed in their life. Maybe they started a family. Maybe they just got married. Maybe they, went through something that they don't necessarily want to tell you about, but, they're saying, hey, look, I'm going to need some extra time, to take on something outside of work and so forth. So, it's really a good time to spend some time with people, evaluate, take stock of where they are, ask some probing questions, understand they're not always going to tell you everything, especially if things are personal goals they have, or they're taking on, things that, may take up some time. It's a new hobby and they don't necessarily want to tell you that it might take up some time, because sometimes managers and bosses tend to think that, they should consume all your time. But, definitely spend some time one-on-one, both, up and down your organization, but laterally across your organization, but also, spend some time with people that you respect in the industry, that you go to for advice in the industry, and sort of figure out, where's their head, right? Because you may find that your relationship with them needs to change a little bit, or needs to be done in a different way. Third thing is, and I don't know exactly the right way to sort of phrase this, but we're in sort of this crazy time in our industry, and, crazy in the sense of everything's changed because of COVID. We've talked about this on our wrap-up show in 2021. A lot of people are working from home. People have moved. They've moved states. They've moved cities. The ability to work remote is now a big option for a lot of people that maybe it hadn't been for years. And so, you got to remember that while you may have an interesting place to work, you may be allowing people to work on interesting projects. A lot of them are probably, if they're in high demand for skills, which is, technical skills all over the place these days, they're probably getting a lot of phone calls from recruiters. They're probably getting a lot of interesting offers. They're probably seeing their friends changing jobs. I think I mentioned on the wrap-up show, 25% of the people that, I have connections with on LinkedIn change jobs, 25%, 1 in 4 people. And, given kind of the state of where we are, where the technology boom is going on right now, people are having to make some interesting decisions, some difficult decisions sometimes. And so it's good to sort of sit down with them and talk through what's a good balance for them. Because in some cases, taking on something new, going somewhere new, taking on a new challenge is a great thing for people. Sometimes people do it strictly for the money, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with doing that. But there's also times when maybe, they'd like to stay where they are. People don't love change inherently. Changing jobs is difficult. And maybe what they really need is just a different opportunity, a modified focus, a modified set of goals, a new kind of career path, or a modified career path laid out for them. And so, don't just assume that everybody's happy in what they're doing. Don't just assume that if they come to you with, hey, I got 2 offers or an offer or something, that they're automatically going to leave. but it's important to be proactive with that stuff, right? People are, again, we're in kind of crazy times, both, because of the pandemic, because of where we're working, because of the pace at which people are working. But, again, if you work in technology and you've lived through booms and busts, and, there is a certain amount of like anxiety that you get of like, maybe I just need to do this. Maybe I need to make this change because this is only going to last for 2 more years, or this is going to last for a couple of years, or this is my one opportunity to get that title that I've been chasing after. But again, sometimes it's the right thing for you. Sometimes, again, the place where you're at, the people you work with, the known entity is sometimes the better thing. So finding that right balance, or trying to find, a framework to make those kind of decisions, it's really important to talk to people about it. And again, whether you're talking to a mentor, a colleague, a friend, people send us requests or, emails all the time to show@cloudcast.net. What should I do with my career? Like, what about this job? Should I think about this? Or what do you guys think about this industry? We're always happy to give our 2 cents on those as well. So if we can help, always happy to help our community. And then the last thing I'll talk about a little bit, and I ran into this personally, literally this last week. I haven't seen anybody on my team, my regular day job work team, in more than 2 years. Coming up on 2 years. A lot of us got together March of 2020, just literally 2 or 3 days before the pandemic kind of shut everything down, at least in the United States, and March 2020. We're kind of coming up on those dates. We were supposed to get together, and unfortunately, because of Omicron and some outbreaks in various places, that face-to-face isn't going to get together. And to be honest, there's a very distinct level of kind of being bummed out that you don't get to see people in person. And I've seen these people a million times on videos, and that's all great, and it's better than just a voice call and all that. But there is a certain amount of just connectedness we need, right? Connectedness with people, and connectedness with people we work with, to have interesting conversations, to figure out what's going on in their lives, to talk about things. And so, I can't go fix that problem right now. I can't fix Omicron. I can't, suddenly allow us to, get back in the office and have this offsite meeting that we had been planning for and all those sort of things. But, I would highly recommend finding ways to interact with people, especially, people that you work with. I know I'm not recommending you do anything unsafe or whatever you're not comfortable with, or, having to go into an office, but, maybe find a fun way to interact online. Maybe find a way to, get into a new community, get into a new Slack channel, whatever it is, meet some new people, kind of take your mind off of some certain things. And I know I've done that for myself in a couple of different ways. One of which, and I'll put a shout out, and I'll put a link in the show notes. I interact with some other podcasts. I interact with the Software Defined Talk folks, Brandon and Cote and Matt Ray, do an awesome job. I know, I'm a big fan of their podcast. I know I've mentioned it on the show. Brandon's been on the show a couple of times. But their Slack channel and all the kind of different things those guys talk about, that community is a lot of fun. And, that's just one example. Highly recommend it for folks that, are into the technology stuff, maybe like their podcast as well, like our podcast. You're going to find a lot of like-minded people that are having fun discussions. But, we break off into stuff about food or sports or, whatever other crazy things are going on. So finding those things that give you some connections to people. Don't feel alone. Don't feel isolated. I know we're all kind of going through this together, which I guess is good, but it's been so long that it can feel trapping at times. So, whatever you can do, whether it's, finding a group to do a book club with, or a hobby, or whatever it is that kind of gives you some satisfaction, some personal connection, I highly recommend that as well. So, lots to talk about people, lots to talk about sort of, setting goals and so forth today. A little different than we typically do, but, I did want to kick off the year, kind of reminding us, we, behind all these technologies that we deal with, behind the clouds that we expect to do all sorts of cool things for us as people. And, we've all been through a lot of challenging things, more so some people than others. And I have, great respect and empathy for those that are struggling and try and help those that we can, whether it's just through mentoring, whether it's through donations, through whatever, do what you can to help some people, help one person, whatever you can do. And if you need help, reach out, right? Whether it's reaching out through a community you trust, through people you trust, sometimes just sending an email to somebody and being like, hey, you don't know me, but could you help me with this one thing? And you'll be amazed at how many people want to help, want to just be good people. So anyways, I've talked for a long time about the people side of things. Hopefully this gives you something to think about as you're interacting with your team, setting your goals, communicating your goals to your teammates and your boss and people that are around you. You're listening to other people and again, trying to figure out, what are the things that are gonna make people tick, that motivate them, and maybe how do you get aligned to those things in ways that maybe you had taken for granted. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks everybody for listening. Really excited about 2022. We have shows already booked out through March, I think into March, and just really, really good guests, really interesting topics. Not that we haven't in the past, but it just feels like we're sort of doubling down on really, really good content. So see a lot of the look ahead shows here in 2022. We're going to do those in January. They'll probably bleed a little bit into February. We've got a bunch of people, but like I said, we're already booking shows out into March, and so we're really excited about what's coming next. And we've got a few other kind of interesting sort of side projects in the hopper. Last year, our big side project was Cloudcast Basics. Hopefully, some of you had a chance to listen to it. It seemed like it gained some traction. I know we kind of positioned it as being sort of basic, but again, this might be a great thing to pass along to a colleague or a friend. But we do have a couple of other projects. I've got one in mind. I'm hoping to get started here in sort of late February, March timeframe that I think should be really interesting as well. So I can't divulge too much about it right now. I want to kind of get some details laid out, but we will get that to you as soon as we can. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up. Thanks again for another fun Sunday perspective. Thanks for telling a friend about the show. 2021 was our biggest show ever in terms of number of listens, in terms of average number of listeners. December was our biggest show ever, our biggest month ever. So thank you to everybody who's helping us grow the community, giving us feedback, and we're really excited to be with you for the rest of this year. So talk to you next week.
Thank you for listening to The Cloudcast. Please visit thecloudcast.net to find more shows, show notes, videos, and everything social media.